Hello and welcome back to another episode of Adulting Anonymous podcast. I'm your host Kuzai, and this is your first time seeing me on camera. Guys, welcome back to the podcast. I am so delighted that you could tune in and that you're still rocking with us. If I sound nervous, it's because I probably am. On today's episode, y'all, I have a very special guest. Let me tell you, if you remember back in COVID, at least that's when I discovered him. He literally kept me sane with my friends. We'd always wait for a new episode of one of his skits or his YouTube series. And I still can't believe he's here because I was trying for the longest time to get him on here and with fail, but I'm here, I'm a survivor. But guys, rambling. But I would like to welcome the one and only, the funniest man in Africa, in the world, probably right now, because you're doing a lot. I'd like to welcome Nigel Tha Slick Pastor.
Thank you so much, Kiz. It's such a pleasure to be here.
I'm so honored.
To meet you as well.
I'm so honored to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm great, man. I'm good. I'm chilled. I'm excited to be here.
Really?
Yes, I am.
Do you want to tell the people why you took so long to come to my podcast?
Life. Life. I mean, it's always one thing or another.
I get
you.
You're a busy man.
Yeah, I am. Well, I think, you know what? I think everyone is busy, generally speaking. There are people who come up to me and be like, we don't want to waste your time because we know you've got a lot to do. I'm like, everyone has got a lot to do. I don't know why people want to treat my time like it's so special.
No, but it is.
But, okay, thanks. Yeah. So, and also, I'm not a really big fan of the whole virtual thing. That's, I don't know. Something is just off for me.
I get you.
Yeah, so this is much easier for me. So sometimes I usually put things off until we can actually just do them face to face, in person, live, and stuff like that. And in good time.
Thank you. I'm honored. I'm so happy, guys. I'm not even gonna be nonchalant or act cool about it. I'm fangirling, and along with the rest of y'all. So before we start, just let's do a little icebreaker.
All right.
What song would you say is the current soundtrack of your life and why?
Okay, so just to get something clear, when you say soundtrack of my life, do you mean a song that speaks to the life I'm living? Yep. That's what you mean? Currently, yeah. Okay. I
can tell you mine, but it's a heartbreak song. Sorry, joking.
TMI. Okay.
Sorry.
It probably would be Jericho by Natty O.
Oh, okay. And why is that?
Because it's a song that talks about an aspiration to break down walls and limitations and live the life that you aspire. There's a part of the song that says, like nothing is impossible. Jericho. So for me, how I take it is we all have our own, walls of Jericho, things that try to keep us boxed in a certain position.
Absolutely.
I'm just in the process of taking away those shells and taking away those limitations and breaking those boundaries. Absolutely. So that song would almost perfectly describe, the time I'm in.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like a nice transition season. Before I get into that, you strike me as a very positive individual, a very God-fearing individual. And I think that's why I was so adamant in trying to get you on my podcast, because I feel like I always say, whenever I meet a man who's God-fearing and who's pushing positivity, and your page represents all of that, I always want them to speak out loud, because we have so many people that are saying the wrong things.
That's so
for the only way to counter that is to get the people with the positive.
Yeah.
Exactly. My question though is, have you always been this positive?
Well, overall speaking, yes. But there have been, moments when you have your own doubts, you have your fears, your worries and stuff like that. But as a general position, yes, and I believe it's because of how I was raised.
Okay.
Like you've probably somewhat highlighted, my positivity stems from my faith, my belief in God, my belief in what He can do and what. So my life is pretty much just revolved around that.
Yeah.
The fact that God can do anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've always tried to lean into that side of just believing that anything is possible and be positive. But it doesn't mean that I've managed to do that all my life. There have been some very dark moments where I probably just threw away all because sometimes it gets hard. It's so hard to be strong. It's so hard to stay positive. Sometimes it's actually easier to give up and just go with the flow of negativity. But overall speaking, I would say I've always been like that. Yeah,
I get you. I also want to feed off of that and talk about a time you've mentioned. You've been very vocal about your experience with depression,
right?
And I think the one time you also mentioned that you transitioned from engineering to comedy,
right?
Let's start with the one question:
right.
Engineering comedy,
right.
How?
Well,
why?
So I think life is a journey of self-discovery, right? So we are human beings. We are not static. We're so dynamic, and every day we're discovering ourselves more. So there's parts of ourselves we don't know. There's parts of ourselves we don't know, but we know, but we don't fully acknowledge. There's parts of ourselves we know and we acknowledge, but we don't know how to walk in them.
Absolutely.
So for me, I always felt like I was an artist, like from a very young age. Yeah, I always felt like I'm a creative. But given the environment, the background and stuff like that, usually when you're thinking about academics, you're thinking sciences, I've got to be a doctor. And if you so happen to be doing well in school, that's usually all you think. I want to be a pilot, a doctor,
engineer. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what sort of happened. I just went with that current, just saying, that's what I'll become. Though inwardly, I always asked myself, especially when I was now in college, working out all those equations and stuff, and asking myself, would I really want to wake up
for the rest of your life
doing this
every single day?
But I think the challenge also was, in as much as I knew what I didn't want, it wasn't very clear what I wanted to become.
Yeah.
But life happened, and I found myself in a space where I got some fulfillment and meaning and sort of purpose in what I was doing by doing comedy. So that's how it happened. It wasn't really like I woke up and said, you know what, no more.
Yeah.
I'm no longer going to school or I'm throwing this degree away and stuff. No, it was progressive until I found myself here. Yeah.
So I'm curious, do your friends tell you you're so funny, and then you decide, okay, this is what I want to do? Or how do you end up in front of a stage and then
because the way it happened, stand-up comedy, live performance wasn't even in the picture. What happened was there's a time I was still in college. I think I was in my final year. Then at the same time we were having a youth conference, and actually it's an Easter conference, but it's hosted by the youth in my church. So we were having that, and in preparation for that, we started making some videos to just hype people up and try and invite people and stuff like that. So that's what I did, and the initial thing I did was actually an audio clip, and it went viral. It went so viral, so wild. My friends from all over the country were sending it back to me, but they didn't realize it was me.
Oh, wow.
They were sending it because they thought, just like how you send memes to your friend.
Yeah.
Like this is funny. So they forwarded to me, like, I did that.
Are you for real?
Yeah. So after a week, we decided, no, let's make a video, right? So that we can put a face to this voice. And initially I was actually like, no, it'll just seem like we're trying to ride on somebody's wave and stuff. And then still my friends were like, no, let's just do it. And we did the video and people liked it.
Wow.
And then I was like, okay. I've always had so many ideas in my mind. Let's try this one. And it worked. People liked it as well. Nice. And it was in a very short space of time. It was like in a month. We had done like 3-4 videos that went pretty viral. So that's how it started. So I'm the type of person that whenever I see even a tiny amount of light, I think I'm like that guy. I think it was Elijah who, when he was praying and he was told, he was asking the servant, go and check if the rain is coming, go and check. And then at one point he came back and he said, yeah, I saw a cloud, but just like the size of a man's hand. And he was like, I know the rain is coming. That's the kind of spirit I carry. Wow. When I just see a bit of light, I'm convinced that I can make something out of this. So when I saw that reaction and that response, something told me, you know what, I've got to focus. Content creation wasn't as popular back then, as it is becoming now at that time. But I was like, I can make this happen. Let me do this.
That's interesting though, especially considering that especially as Africans, right? We attach so much prestige with, like you mentioned, the careers such as engineering, and then when you tell your parents that you want to be a creative, at least my parents, I don't know if I'm representing other people's parents as well. When you tell them that you want to do something in the arts, you know, like they kind of look at you like you just need a hobby, and they don't take you as seriously as you should. So what kind of stereotypes did you have to let go of?
For me now, so one of the other things that's really important is behaving wisely, dealing with situations with wisdom. For instance, you might discover that, you know what, I really just want to do makeup for the rest of my life. And you're halfway through med school. Right? I don't really think it's wise for you to like just
quit mid school.
Exactly. Because you're going to, for the next couple of years, until this starts paying off, you're just going to be having endless battles with your family, and you know, people saying, why did you do this? We wasted money. And above all, I want to speak also on behalf of the parents and say, usually when they do say that, it's not coming from a place of, no, we don't want you to do what you want. It's coming from a place of love.
Absolutely.
Like a lot of them feel like, you know, if you've got these high paying jobs, then your future is secure. If you've got this qualification, you stand better chances of living a better life. So for them, that's what they're afraid of when you say, you know what, I just want to cook, man. I just want to do.
Absolutely. And I read somewhere that it also, sometimes it really has to do with the fact that they know how to take you to school. They know how to take you to extra lessons because they've gone through the same things, and they've also become doctors. They've become, so it's a part they're familiar with. The moment you say, I want to be a creative, you're stripping them of the power to actually come through for you.
What part do we play?
Yes. So that's also like,
subscribe to your channel.
What do I do? What do you mean?
That's all. So what I did in my situation, the moment I sort of realized, okay, this is where I might be headed. I kept my head down, went to school, but I started hating it more each day. I remember when I finally finished after, you know, failing some courses, and it wasn't because like I'm not smart or anything, but you know, when you lose interest in stuff,
you end up applying yourself. You're just like, it was a hobby.
There were days when, you know, before the exam, I was like, you know what? I'll just see it tomorrow. I'll be like, I don't know. I'll just wing it and see. And then sometimes it would work and sometimes
it wouldn't.
So what ended up happening was, that's how I did it. I maintained, you know, no, I'm going to school. And because of the situation in the country, you know, it's not like you graduate today and you get a job tomorrow. So the picture I painted was, I'm actually looking for a job. But while I'm looking for a job,
I'm not going to sit still.
I'm going to keep myself busy. So to them, that was a very, you know, responsible way to act. Like, you're looking for a job, but you're sorting out your own airtime and stuff. So, and then it came to a point where they started kind of seeing that, wait, this guy's actually busy. Oh, he's booked for a wedding. Oh, nice. Wait, you're going to South Africa. Oh, okay. He sent us money.
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay.
And then they start trusting you and the process.
Nobody ever asked me, when are you going to get a job? Because they saw that I had become the job. So
you're still job hunting.
Yes, I am. So it's tough out there.
So what would you say is the toughest thing about being a creative, and how do you usually deal with it?
Wow. To single out the toughest thing, though the challenges are somewhat interrelated. But I think one of the hardest things about being a creative is there's a certain kind of loneliness that comes with it, in the sense that most of the times you don't see what other people are seeing, and as a result, most of the times it seems like you're wasting time. One of the things I'm most thankful for is that God has so richly blessed me with an incredible circle of people, whether it's from my family or friends I chose for myself. But I have been constantly surrounded by people who believe in me so much. Because one of the limitations of creativity is, if I say, let's do a video, I've got an idea. You're sitting there like, yes. So I'll be standing on that couch and then I'm going to fall off. Right? You're like, yeah?
Yeah.
And if you don't show any excitement or any reception of that idea,
then you think it's a bad idea.
Exactly. It kills the idea. Then I become afraid to share more. So one of the challenges of creativity is loneliness, because you have something that you feel is going to be so great, but people cannot
not
see
necessarily
the picture.
Behind it.
So if I come to you and I say I need $1,000 to do this, but I know it's going to give us like 10K in the next 4 or 5 months because this is how it's going to play out, they don't get it. If you say, no, I just need time to work on this, you're busy, wasting time. That's how they say it. So there's a loneliness of some sort. And also because if you're creative, if you're good at it, people start feeling like you got it all together.
Gotcha.
A lot of times people just feel like you've got the answers. You know how things work. You know how to sort out all your issues. In fact, they feel like you don't even have issues.
Yeah.
They're like, this guy's got everything on point. So you become so lonely because people people feel like they cannot relate with you, that type of thing. So I think, those are some of the
challenges. That's interesting, because I also want to ask, just in line with that, you mentioned that your first show in Cape Town had 30 people.
Yeah,
and
probably
then
less than 30.
So you rounded off.
Did we even get up to 30? The first one we did, Loop Street. Yeah. Maybe including ourselves. Including
you made it up to 30.
And Cyprian and
Yeah, so you mentioned that it was 30 and then you went back again and obviously you filled up the venue. I guess my question is more about, like you said, the first time you'd probably think, I'm not cut out for this. I'm not meant to be doing this. But you went back and obviously it went way better than the first time. What type of mentality do you have to have for you to just keep...
The key thing, if you want to build, is you must be able to separate your emotions from your vision. You must. It's very difficult, but you must do that. Because the way to look at it is, if I try to do a show and then 5 people come, the emotion is, man, I'm sad, I'm disappointed, I'm heartbroken, I'm embarrassed. Those are the emotions.
Absolutely.
Right? But if your vision says, no, I want to take it up to 50, you then objectively try to find out why were there 50 people, because honestly, why were there 5 if I was expecting 50? Could it be the choice of venue? Could it be the ticket price? Could it be the timing? Could it be that I didn't tell enough people? So when you start looking at things objectively like that and just push your emotions aside, like, people let me down, this page has posted me, they said the show was a flop. You just throw all of that to the side and you objectively study why you got the results you did. That can then give you courage to try and start again, because you're improving on everything. People will come and tell you, no, that venue was bad because it's far from where everybody is. Okay, so I'm going to pick a new venue. the ticket prices were a bit too high, man. We feel like, okay. So I might take down the ticket prices a bit more. And then some people say, we would have loved to come. We didn't know. Okay.
Yeah.
So that means I must start advertising much earlier, right? And then so when you're dealing with things objectively, you've got more reasons to try. Failure is not final. It just becomes feedback.
Okay.
You get it? Even when you succeed, still try to separate your emotions from that success.
Okay.
Just look at it objectively. Why was this a success? Don't just go to bed and be like, I feel so good. Wait,
I made it.
1,000 people. 1,000 people came. So people like me, and you're all caught up in your feelings. Study it objectively. What did I do right? How can I do it even, better? So that I now have a working formula.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So for me, the attitude was, let's look at what went wrong. Is it really that people don't like me? No, but if they didn't, why would I have 500,000 followers, right? If they didn't like me, who's watching all these videos? If they didn't like me, how come?
Surely they would even want it in person.
You see now.
It's even better.
So when you objectively study these things, separate yourself from the emotions.
And what's important there is, I like that you also focus on the positives, because I think when you're like defeated and down and out, it's very easy to point out the negative things about this is why it went wrong. But then if you're like, okay, but my Instagram has 500,000 followers, my YouTube has this much of then it's not all that bad, clearly.
Exactly.
How do you nurture that muscle? Because I'll speak and I'll represent those that I have moments where I'm really like a negative Betty, and obviously I managed to then get out by talking to people, prayer, etc. But let's say if it was someone who's just alone, how do you nurture that muscle?
Well, for me, I think these things come in so many ways. Number one, when you have the right company. Because if you're doing things as a loner, you might be a loner in the sense that you're doing things alone, or you are alone in the sense that you're surrounded by people who don't get you. So you're as good as being alone. Yeah. Because when you're surrounded by the right people, they're always ready to give you that feedback. So, you know what? No, I think our show didn't do well because of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that energy at that moment doesn't even have to come from you. It comes from those around you. And then secondly, it also comes just by experience and training. Okay. Because the more you do it, I'm at a point now where even if my next show is a flop, it doesn't mean much to me. It doesn't. What it does is it doesn't say anything about me. No, it just says something about that particular event. Okay. I don't use it. So the problem is we use a lot of moments to define
ourselves. Exactly.
You get it? Yeah. Like I went to this place and I failed. So I'm a failure. No, you must say I went to that place and this failed. So that wasn't a good idea, or that wasn't proper execution. So by experience, you start to experience by a lot of different outcomes.
Absolutely.
You do one show, there's 500 people. You do another show, there's 100. You do another, there's 30. So for you, it doesn't. The failures. Let me air quote and say the failures. Don't really say much about you anymore. So you don't really care. It's almost just like the way we live life, right? Some days are very good. Some days are not so great. Not so good, yeah. But you don't say, because I had a bad day, I'm just gonna kill myself, or I'm just gonna stop living life. Right? You live with an anticipation that tomorrow might be better. So that should be the approach whether you're doing any projects or a show, or you're attempting academics or whatever it is. You should just not allow small moments to define you, no matter whether they're positive or they're negative. But I think the challenge is a lot of times we allow the positive to define us. So that's why the negative has got so much power over us. Because if you're saying, look at me, guys, I'm great because I had a sold out show. So if if that's the reason, that means if you do the next show and you don't sell it out, or maybe it's just half
also
the
gonna be your
capacity,
new.
and then so let's have a new definition for you. But if your greatness is absolute, it's not defined in comparison to anything. You're just saying, I am good, I am gifted, I am great. Greatness is me. Greatness is me. I was born to be great. I'm a child of God. I am excellent. Before you do anything, right? So that means whatever the outcome,
you're still great.
You're
still great. So I love that.
So that's the attitude I try to carry. Yeah,
I love that. One thing you spoke about is how we keep going because we anticipate that tomorrow is going to be better. And that's what I always talk about, in the sense that that's what we essentially call hope, right?
Exactly.
Sometimes I always say the enemy is after your hope, because if he can stop you from thinking tomorrow is going to be better, then he has you in the position that he wants you to be in.
True.
Now, we know that with seasons of transition, like if you're transitioning from engineering to the arts, or to being a creative, or just normal transition. Someone could be transitioning in terms of grief. Someone could be transitioning in terms of a heart, like a broken heart, a job transition, or you've lost your job. There's always transition that one finds themselves in. How do you think it's possible to maintain your belief, especially in God? I guess, which is also where your hope is built on. Do you think it's possible to maintain that belief in the face of transition when you're facing all of that? And how do you do that?
Well, yeah, possible it is. But in some cases it's hard. I think it goes back to how strongly rooted you were in the first place. I think that's what matters. The reason why, I think there's a scripture that says, as gold is, tested with fire, so also your faith that is precious. So faith is not faith if it's not tested.
True.
And these transitions sometimes are the perfect tests to our faith. So it is possible to maintain it if it was only genuine and true in the first place. Because the idea of putting gold through a furnace is trying to take away anything that is not gold, that is on that material. So if your faith was not gold, it's going to burn in the furnace. So it's the key thing is ensuring that even before you get into the furnace, your faith is strongly rooted, and you are deep, and it's anchored. It's anchored on the truth. Gotcha. Because a lot of times people have faith in their abilities, but they'll say their faith in God. You see, they'll say, I believe in God. Like somebody could get a job right now from a very high paying company. Let's say you become a tech consultant at Google, and they tell you they're paying you $100,000 a month, and taking care of this and that and that and that. You could stand and say, Jehovah Jireh, God is my provider. I trust God to provide. When in fact you trust your bank account. You see, it's hard to separate when people trust in themselves and then when they trust in God.
Also, when they don't realize that our jobs are just a conduit that God uses to provide for us.
I love that. I always tell people that. Yeah. When people ask, what is your source of income? I say the source.
the source is God. The how is...
If you ask me the channels, I've got this business and that. Those are just the channels that God uses. But the source is Him. So it is possible to maintain your faith through a transition if only it was genuine in the first place.
Gotcha.
Yeah, if it got lost in the fire, it wasn't real. And you must thank God for the fire, because then it exposes what's genuine and what's not.
Absolutely.
That's what the fire is there to do. So sometimes you would actually be deceiving yourself, feeling like, you know what, I'm always praying because I love God. Sometimes you're always praying because things are good, or sometimes you're always praying because things are bad. And let's see if things become well for you. That's also a kind of fire people don't talk about. So it is possible to maintain your your hope. It is possible to maintain your faith only if it was true. Yeah.
If it was true. And I like that because that means in times when you're not, I feel like life is always going to have something that you're fighting.
Life is always life.
But when things are not as hectic, you should use that as an opportunity to deposit into your faith bank. That's what I always call it.
That's true.
So
that's actually one of my strategies.
So when things are good, when you have free time, when the strategy I usually use is to capitalize on that, pray more, memorize an extra verse, like listen to more sermons. If you listen to one a day, listen to two.
Right.
Until such a point in time when you can't listen to any and you have to like reach deep, and then you have to remember that this is not what God says about me.
Right.
This is not how my situation ends, and it may help in the long run.
Yeah.
Question. So now I'm coming back to 2021.
Right.
You've been open, I guess, about your mental health.
Right.
Do you want to share a bit more about that? Like what was happening?
Okay. So, I've had a couple of episodes and battles with depression and anxiety and stuff like that. And the reason I talk about it is I know how prevalent it is. I know how many people out there are going through stuff they cannot talk about.
Absolutely.
Because they feel embarrassed. Because whenever you feel like you're the only one going through something, have you ever tried to search for something on Google, right? Something that's maybe bothering you or something you're feeling in your body. And then when you discover that a lot of people have searched for this thing, like, stomach acid. Before you say
there's like 129 responses.
So this is common. Okay. So let's see what they're saying. Nobody ever wants to feel like whatever they're feeling, they're the first ones to feel it, especially if it's bad. So I talk about it a lot because I want to normalize these conversations. I talk about how I've, failed at job hunting abroad, how I've failed to manage money and find myself in debt. And there's a day I made a thread about it on Twitter. And the number of people that came to my DMs saying, "Yo,
Me
bro,
too.
I'm going through the same. I just didn't. Thank you so much for being vulnerable." And I'm like, what? This other person was like, I'm actually in this profession. And when people know that you're in this kind of profession, they don't even think your life can be so hectic and stuff like that. So I'm very open about it because I know it's out there. It's real.
It's people's realities. Yeah.
So I had my challenges. I tried to go abroad. I was in Dubai for a bit, trying to get a job, and things were not working out. The money was not there, and part of the reason I was also depressed was because I felt like I had abandoned my purpose as well.
Gotcha.
So I just felt lost to the point that I feel like even if I had gotten a job at that time, a good one, and been comfortable, I was still going to be very unhappy. And there is something so stressful about sadness that is perpetual. Sometimes that I've just had a bad day.
Yeah.
So this is why I feel this way. If I take a nap and then I wake up and have some tea, I'll be okay. But the heaviest thing to bear is just realizing that if life keeps going in this direction, I'm always going to be feeling this way.
Sad, yeah.
So I then returned to Zimbabwe and I was so depressed, man. I was depressed. I was in debt, pressure and stress from all angles. I started getting migraines, serious headaches. I got admitted in hospital. And then after a day or two, the doctor was like, "No, you're okay. You're good to go." And I asked him, I said, "Could I please just get him one more day?" I didn't want to go outside and face anyone. I didn't even want to be around my family because I felt like it had been such a loser and a failure. And then, I connected with a comic pastor. I had already been doing comedy and all this. But I'd never done it with him. And then we met. Very happy guy, cheerful guy, free-spirited guy. And his approach to life generally, his fun approach to life made me see things a lot differently.
Nice.
taught me how to monetize my talent. And then in a short space of time, my life had sort of turned around.
Yeah.
There are other moments, even after that, some years after that, when I've had some seasons of darkness, but I've always eventually prevailed, which is why I'm here. So, I just always encourage people to say, whatever you're feeling, there are some statements that sound really
cliche.
Yeah, cliche and cheesy, and people are like, you're not alone.
Yeah.
But it is actually true.
You're not.
You are not alone.
You're not, yeah.
So that's why I'm very vocal about the things I've been through. I just want to empower people with a sense of no shame.
Yeah.
Say there's no shame in admitting that you were bad at handling your money, or you were pretending to have it all together when you didn't. Because in doing so, that's when you give yourself an opportunity to rebuild and rise. Yeah,
absolutely. And I guess shame is literally what's holding people back.
That's one of the devil's strongest weapons.
Yeah. And I guess, like, in your case, you can, like, what you're doing for people now, because you reach out and you're open about your experiences, and then it gives others, I guess, the opportunity, or it sometimes gives them the words to even describe how they're feeling or what their experiences are. It helps them articulate it. But it can also be like a lonely journey, like you mentioned, because I find that sometimes it's not until we meet, or it's not until someone stumbles across your page where they say, okay, no, I feel a bit liberated because I'm not the only one.
Right.
What is, I guess, something you can help someone who's struggling with shame? And some of the shame is basically because of the way we view ourselves, some of all the negative stories that we tell ourselves. I always say there's the reality, and then there's the story we tell ourselves about the reality. And somehow we always manage to make it the worst case scenario, and then shame comes in, and then embarrassment, and then the fear to be seen, fear to reach out, etc. What would you say is one solid mechanism you can use just to rid yourself of shame from an individual personal perspective?
Wow, very powerful question. I think, I don't know if I can come up with one way.
Or two, or three.
Because what I think this is all about, what shame comes to do is to distort your identity.
True.
So when you fix your identity, then shame does not become an issue.
Okay.
It's like, for instance, if the king or the prince of England were to, by some chance, just get rained on or fall into the mud, right? To him, he just realizes that it's my clothes that are dirty. I'm still the prince of England.
Yeah.
I'll just take these clothes off,
change them,
and they say nothing about my status. But because we live in a society where our self-worth is built on people's opinions of us. So it becomes very hard to separate now. If you feel like people respect me because of the car I drive, then for you to admit that I'm actually in debt because of this car, I'm failing to pay, people would rather struggle. People would rather sell their souls to just pay for that car because they feel like, my car, my life, my car, my image, my life. This is who I am because of this. I always even try to train and teach myself that I know a lot of people celebrate me for my gift and for what I've done and for the work. But I always try to ground myself and separate myself from that and say, even if nobody knew me,
absolutely,
I'm still a very valuable human being.
Yeah.
My worth does not increase because
of your ability to
10
see
people
me.
asking for selfies every day. That means nothing, because what if because if the devil sees that, okay, so you feel good because people acknowledge you.
Then you wake up to a page of trolls and you're trending on Twitter.
or such a time, maybe a time will come when nobody cares about you, right? They care
Moved
about
on
the
to the
next
hot thing,
That's why you find a lot of these people in depression, or some will go to the extremes to just try and stay relevant,
absolutely,
to just try and stay being talked about, because it's not really that they want it, but that's where they've built their identity. So I don't want to sound like I'm giving a very deep religious answer, but that is what has worked for me, is to just build my identity in Christ. To say, I am what God says I am. And before my page had 2 likes, before I had 5 followers, God says I am his child.
Yeah.
God says I'm sanctified. God says there is no condemnation to those who are in Christ.
Amen.
God says I am a chosen generation. I am a royal priesthood. I am the head. I'm not the tail. Greater is he that is in me. God says he has loved me with an eternal love, a love that cannot change, a love that is constant. So God does not love me more because I'm on tour. God does not love me more because I'm reaching more people.
Yeah.
Nah, maybe I'm just being more effective in his kingdom, but I'm not earning points with God, right?
You don't have, it's not a performative
He says,
situation.
Before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you and I ordained you. So to anybody struggling with shame, it's probably pointing back to an identity crisis. It's pointing back to who you believe you are. You believe you are important in society because people think you are a good person. So now you're saying, if I come out and say, I'm struggling with this addiction. So people are going to be like, so you're just as lousy as the rest of us.
I had someone tell me that the other day. They were like, why did you take so long to respond to my message? I was like, the past week has been tough. I think I had an anxiety episode and my mental health hasn't been great. And then he was like, but you strike me as such a positive, as a positive person. I'm like, okay, so me being, I'm like, no, I am positive. It doesn't negate my mental health issues.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So imagine if what that might do to you if you're not mentally strong is, you'll be like, so people think I'm
this, this is what people think of me. I can't.
Right. So next time I'm in trouble, I'm not telling anyone because it's going to distort my image. But when you are fully confident in who you are in Christ, in God, you cease to care what the world thinks about you.
I love that.
So most of our problems with shame and condemnation and embarrassment, they just stem from the fact that we've built our image and our personalities around what people think of us instead of what God thinks of us.
I love that. I love that. What would you say is your purpose?
My purpose is to bring light, love, and laughter into the world.
Got you.
To just try and sum it up,
And as you spoke about abandoning your purpose. What and I guess now I can say I can see you're living in your purpose every single day.
Right.
What did it cost you to live in your purpose?
It has cost me comfort.
Gotcha.
Right. I don't think I live a life I like. I enjoy it. It's very fulfilling. It's very exciting, but it's not a comfortable life. Yeah. Comfort in the sense that, you see, when you discover your purpose, it becomes your master. Yeah. So those people who haven't discovered their purpose or who know it and are not living in it or trying to fulfill it, they are basically, they don't have any master. Yeah. And sometimes that sounds nice, but also it means there's no reward to that life if you don't have a master. So I've had to forgo a lot of comforts and pleasures in order to attain what I want to attain. There are sacrifices and risks that I've had to take, which maybe 80% people my age have not had to deal with. There are things that have had me at 2 a.m. just staring at the roof and be like, this doesn't work out. I'm in trouble. And somebody has never had to worry about that because they're not trying to do the things I'm trying. So what this has cost me is comfort and certainty. Okay. Yeah. My only certainty of life comes from my faith, not from anything I'm seeing. With other people, the lives they live, they've got life figured out. Like this, I do this, it produces this result. I don't even try this because, but for me, I'm always going way out of my reach and saying, well, it's out of my reach, but it's in God's.
Gotcha.
So it has cost me comfort and that certainty of life. Yeah.
I love that. I just want to touch on the importance of building a solid community. And having people rally behind you. I think you're also vocal about that, about how you reach out to people to help with your projects. But then I also know that you are also that person for other people.
Right.
How would you say that has impacted your journey? Just, being, and how do you do it? Because I feel like nowadays it's just about what I can get from the next person, right? Yeah. And I want to be associated, like you mentioned earlier, with the next best thing. And you see people hopping. How do you really build a strong community of people that rally behind you in times of, when you're pursuing your dreams? So
I hope it's something that, people in our generation can fully understand and commit to understand that relationships are so critical to success.
These self-made people.
I've always frowned on that term.
Yeah.
Self-made.
Yeah.
I don't know. It probably means something deeper than what we think, because for me it just means that you did everything by yourself.
And it can't be.
Yeah, somebody came to me and then explained that, no, when they say self-made, they mean you didn't get any handouts, but it doesn't necessarily mean you didn't get help. But still, it just feels so uncomfortable to use that statement. So the power of community, because Jesus had a mission. He went out and he looked for 12 guys. This is God in the flesh, right? But he didn't say, I'm going to do everything by myself. He went out, he got people from different backgrounds, different personalities, different character traits, different strengths and weaknesses, which is something that we probably don't want to acknowledge a lot of times. Because when we want to look for people to rally around us, we're trying to look for perfect people, right?
Successful people.
People who are successful already. But if you truly have got a vision, you're not as concerned about a person's state, about who they are now, but what they can become.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the things I really look at with everybody around me. They may not know it, but there's stuff that I see in them when I look at them. And I tend to hang around those people a lot more. So like you said, sometimes I reach out to people for help with projects and stuff like that. Even in my communication online and stuff, I always try to break down the barrier of he's an artist and we are
normal
fans.
people. And I felt that.
You get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more like we're all family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, in a sense, we are. Like, I'm just talented in a way that you're not, but you're also good at something that if I were to see you do it, I would sit down and be like, wow, how did you do that? Right? So the fact that I have a gift that a lot of people celebrate must not make me feel like I'm from Mars.
Gotcha.
So
it's called humility. That's the term.
Is it?
You're a humble man. Yeah.
I didn't realize. Well, thank you. So just realizing that, and I think you build more solid relationships when you're genuine, because then you connect. One day I was just thinking about the number of good people that have come my way that I didn't have to vet, like, let me do some background check.
Yeah.
Who is this person? A lot of times I just end up sitting with someone and like, my spirit was right about this person. Like, I'll give you an example. One of my friends was doing great, by the way, King Kandoro. He's touring the world and stuff like that. So there's a day before my show, we were just going around in the evening, just getting ready for the next day, meeting people and whatnot. So he ended up just telling me part of his life story. I didn't tell him then, but as he was telling me, I realized this is why I like this guy. It's not really about the jokes and stuff like that. Of course, at an artistic level, we vibe even more. But beyond that, person to person, human to human, I could, okay, he's done this in life. He's been through this. This is why I've always liked this guy. It's like the spirit in him connects to mine. So I try to be very genuine about where I'm from, where I'm at, and also be clear about my ambition. You know, that if the next day I wake up and I'm a millionaire, no one should feel like, Nigel is now. No, people have seen the struggle and stuff like that. So I build relationships by being genuine. Number 2, I also build them by trying to genuinely be of value to the people around me. I know some of them just may want to associate with me for the sake of association, for some clout or whatnot. But I try to go beyond that and say, but how can I be a good person to you? Not the slick pastor, not for you to say, I've got Nigel's contact in my phone. So that's not really going to help you if I'm not picking up the phone when you're trying to call me.
True.
So I try by all means to there are some people who are very rich. They've got a lot of money, but they are lonely. They've got nobody to genuinely talk to them, right? I try to identify that amongst my rich friends and be like, you know what? This guy, money is not an issue to him. I can't give him money, will not change him.
Exactly.
It will change his life. But sometimes when I just give him my attention and we share ideas, he feels good. So if I then come to that person and say, I'm working on a project, I need $10,000, he'll be like, okay, I think I can give you 1,000. Because life is all about, it's all an exchange of value.
Absolutely.
You breathe in the oxygen, you breathe out CO2, you're exchanging with the earth around you. For those who study physics know that every time you are walking, right, you are pushing the earth backwards and it's pushing you forward. For every force, there is an equal and opposite. I think this is the only time I've ever used
the engineering, you coming out.
This is the only time I'm using my physics. So, but that's how life works generally. But a lot of times people just jump in to get. You know, people are always concerned, how much am I going to be paid here? They don't think about how much value am I bringing to this organization. You know, we've got such a consumer culture and not. So this is why a lot of relationships fail. This is why a lot of people are always posting, I'm tired of fake friends.
You are the fake friends.
Exactly. Define fake. What do you mean by fake? They didn't come to my party. They didn't give me money when I wanted. They don't support me like they support you. I'm like, what have you done for them? You know, how have you been there for them as well? So those are some of the things I just try to do to build healthy relationships. And I build relationships also around values. Because I know sooner or later, if we don't really get along so well on our values, as we just we're gonna have issues, you know. So I always try to get, you know, like-minded people, and for me it has worked wonderfully. I don't know where I would be without the friends and the family I've got. I honestly have no idea. So I'm very pro relationships,
pro community.
Like
I hope you guys are taking notes.
Right.
We don't want to hear any fake friend discussion beyond this podcast. Please, we're tired. I love that. So you are, guys, you're a big deal. And I'm going to say that, right? So you are going to the States, you're going to England, you're going to be here.
Right.
I bought myself tickets. So it's funny how you actually spoke about King Kandoro. I always buy like tickets when I'm around. I'll buy tickets, but I don't have anyone to go to. So I've got 2 tickets that I bought. One is for me. One I may give away. I may do a giveaway. Or I might just like bully a friend of mine into coming with me.
Please do.
But essentially all I'm saying is you're a big deal and you're going on tour, right? There's a lot that comes with that territory, right? When people go on tour, especially in different countries, sometimes you're not even catering to your usual demographic. You know, there's, do you change your jokes around? Like, how does it work?
Well, in a sense, yeah. Because, I mean, there are things that are more relatable to different people in different locations. So there's stuff that if I come and start talking about here in South Africa, it might be funny for somebody who, you know, knows the background and stuff like that. But it's not as funny because it's not something they are meeting every day. Nice. So when I prepare my content and my material, I usually also try to keep it at a level where it doesn't matter who's in the crowd. You know,
they'll be able to laugh.
Yeah, for instance, if you make jokes about what happens in church, I've seen that church is almost the same everywhere.
Yeah.
If you make jokes about what happens between husbands and wives or siblings, it's really the same.
Relatable.
Or in love situations.
Yeah.
That type. So that's what I try and do. But then I also try to incorporate to sort of like tailor, make custom, make something that's specific for every city. Because then that also gives a sense of
attention to detail
and endearment to say you knew you were coming to speak with us, and you took
did your research
to understand the environment we're living in, the things we might be going through and seeing every day.
I love
so that makes everybody feel special. I
love that wasn't my question though, but I was gonna ask, do you ever experience imposter syndrome? Because I would deem you to be like a high achiever, right? Like I've seen your posts, I've seen the way you move. Like I said, you're a big deal, right? And it's very prevalent in like people like you, the high achievers, the successful people. Do you deal with imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I do, because there's always a voice, that tries to tell you, are you sure you belong here? Are you sure this is your space? Nah, you just got lucky the first time, right? But there's several ways to deal with that. One of the ways is when an experience becomes repeated, then even your system will know that no, this is my life. It's like the first time somebody buys a car, the first time you own a car, the first days you're driving the car, something's gonna happen. And then I'm just gonna go back to commuting again. I don't think this is not. You're telling me that I'm just walking out my gate, getting into the car, and go wherever I want. Impossible. But after a month, after 2 months, you actually cannot imagine. You start asking yourself, how was I living before I had this car?
So, absolutely. Yeah. It becomes your norm.
Yeah. So sometimes when those voices are trying to discourage me and speak so loud, I always say, anybody who said you couldn't do something, do it twice and take pictures. Just go hard and cement that memory, and also tell yourself, nah, I belong here. This is me. This is the life now. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, we could go on forever and ever, but our time is up. So I want to give you a scenario, and then you're gonna sign out. This is the first video podcast, so thank you for being our first. So I want you to look into the camera and talk to a person who feels stuck and is unable to get, I guess, out of their stuckness, and a call to action, like pretend you're talking to your child and you're like, hey, I think you posted actually one of your videos, a father's love, and you spoke about how when a father knows that you're capable of so much more, but you're just holding yourself back because of a bit self-doubt or fear. So I want you to look into the camera and tell that person to unstuck themselves and then also sign out, because you are a pro at this video things, and then you can sign out on my behalf.
Okay, what's the sign out tag? Like, what do I say?
They must just like share it, and then they must rate it, because I'm going to do a giveaway if they rate it.
Lovely. Yes. Okay, so stuck person, I want to speak to you. Right, let's try that again.
Can I just say, first of all, you're a comedian. We didn't laugh this whole hour.
Nah,
that's so crazy.
I actually thought about it midway.
I'm like, this guy is so serious.
But also the idea is, I don't want to tell jokes for free, while I'm on tour. Imagine someone watching this video and laughing.
You going to have to pay for it. There's no such thing as a free lunch.
So, guys, believe it or not, I'm a comedian. Okay? I can be funny sometimes. But anyway, I just want to speak to somebody who might be watching this video and you're in a very dark place, in a very difficult position. The first thing that you have to do is to realize that what has happened has already happened. And this day that you're watching this is your new opportunity to get out. So you can make a decision to stay stuck in what has already happened, or you could say, this is day one of me making a way out of this pit. Stop blaming yourself. You might actually be responsible for the mistakes you made. I call them mistakes. You might say, nah, it's my fault. I deserve everything that's coming my way. But you must also understand that at the moment you did whatever you did that led you there, you did what you thought was best using the information you had at that moment. So stop with the self-doubts, stop with the self-pity. We serve a God whose mercies are new each morning and each day. So he's willing to give you 1,000 and 1 billion chances more. Give yourself one more chance and try again. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Yes, you are host. Go for it.
I'm the host. It's been lovely having my wonderful guest, Kudzi, in the building. Until, please remember to like, share, comment. What else are they supposed
to rate it?
Rate. Please rate our podcast. How do you rate this? And if you do all of the things I've mentioned, you might just, what are they winning?
Tickets to your show.
Oh, tickets to my show.
Tell them
guys.
the date.
Okay, so yes, guys, please, if on the 18th of August, I'm going to be performing live at the Victory Theatre in Houghton, right here in Joburg. So please make sure that you attend that. If you don't win from the rating, if you don't win from the giveaway, please make sure that you save your seat and I see you there and we'll laugh together. It's been very amazing chilling with you for the past hour, which felt like 5 minutes. But it's me, your host, the Slick Pastor, my guest, Kudzi, signing out.
Thank you.